talk about tranching?
Yes, the $700 billion comes in tranches. In essence, the most important point is that the full $700 billion would be authorized and would be basically appropriated by this act. So the commitment to the $700 billion will be made when this is enacted. The funds are deemed appropriated as they are obligated, so no further appropriations or no other further action of Congress is necessary. There is another control or oversight mechanism. There's a tranching mechanism built into this. The way the tranching works is the first $250 billion moves forward. When the Secretary determines that he needs to go above $250 billion, he would make a determination that would be delivered to the Congress, and that would automatically authorize the next $100 billion, taking the total spend up to $350. When the Secretary determines there's a need to go beyond $350 billion, he does another determination and notice to Congress. There is essentially sort of a 15-day period where Congress, will consider that, but unless Congress acts in some way, that also is automatically and presumptively moving forward. So there's no time limits on when these can happen. The request can be made before the funds have been obligated. So if the Secretary determines in advance that he's going to need to go into one of the next tranching levels, he can make that determination and trigger that immediately with his written notification.
And just to follow up on that point, one of the keys for us was to make sure, and the key for the Secretary and the Chairman was to make sure that we had enough ammunition to deal with the situation. And so it was critical for him that there were not onerous constraints on his ability to access the funds. So the last point that Bob made is really important. The last 350, the only way for the Secretary not to get access to it is if when he sends the notice that he needs it, if Congress were to come together and vote to block it, they could do so. The President can then can veto that, and it would require the Congress to vote 2/3 majority to override the President's veto. We feel like that is a very high bar for Congress to get over to block the Secretary accessing these funds. And again, as Bob said, there's no timing associated with that aside from a 15-day period.
That's right. They would have to do that within a 15-day period, 15 calendar days.
Neil, this is Tim Ryan. Let me just make a couple of comments and then we can turn this over to questions. First of all, I think on behalf of all of the industry members, we want to thank all of you for an extraordinary job. We know this has been a tough month and a half for all of you, so we very much appreciate it. And that's number one. Number two, we've been tracking the development of this legislation with all of the government affairs heads from all of our member firms, plus outside experts, and we feel quite comfortable recommending that Congress pass this bill, and quite comfortable recommending to our members that they seriously consider participating in this program, because it's essential to basically unclog the system, which we all know we've been working very hard on. One kind of comment also on the money. Not only is the amount obviously large and important, but the manner in which you have achieved this tranching is a real achievement. As you all know, I was on the RTC board. We tried to achieve what you did. We never could achieve it. We had to constantly go back to Congress for new appropriations, and it set back the program months each time we tried to do it. So again, kudos for what you achieved here.
Next question comes from Mike Mayo of Deutsche Bank. Please go ahead.
Hi, I'll try to stay within those rules, but it seems like Treasury has more optionality. They can either purchase the assets or offer insurance. Do the banks have that same optionality? In other words, can they
the insurance program, just because we've done more work on it more recently. But firms could pick and choose, and they'll have to look at the terms. I mean, we've been directed by Congress to try to price the insurance in a way to protect the taxpayers from losses. So they'll have to also look at the insurance pricing and figure out if they think that's more attractive for them, or to participate in some kind of a purchase program.
Would you imagine the premiums for the insurance be stretched out over, say, 4 or 5 years? So if you have $20 billion of losses, maybe $4 billion of premium over 5 years?
That's a good question. I don't think we have figured that out yet.
Okay, and if you go with the insurance route, does the Treasury still take an equity stake?
Yes, that's our expectation, that the Congress wants the Treasury to be equity stake for these types of programs.
So one way or another, if you participate, the Treasury will have some equity stake.
Correct. Above that threshold, I think it's a $100 million threshold of assets put into the program.
And the equity stake, it would be non-voting common, non-voting preferred, or warrants, or any combination?
We have broad discretion at this point. Probably warrants is where most people have been talking about it, but we'll have to take a hard look at that.
And there's something in the text of the legislation that says Treasury would consider the long-term viability of a firm when deciding whether to grant insurance or purchasing the assets. And it might include... So if you have a stronger firm, that would make Treasury more likely to do which option? To purchase the assets or insurance?
Well, that would not make it be between the two of us. Our point is, if we're putting capital into the system, we think that healthy firms are more likely going to deploy that capital, and firms that are failing or on the verge of failing are going to be more likely to try to protect that capital and not put it to work. And so, all things considered, our preference would be to try to help the healthy banks become even healthier.
I agree, to the extent more banks participate, the more likely it succeeds. But if you have a healthy bank that's simply selling some mark-to-market securities, all of a sudden they're subjected to some of this executive compensation and oversight. Do you think they'll really join in?
Well, again, we think they will, because we think that the executive comp requirements are quite reasonable. If you have a healthy bank and you're hiring a new top 5 executive, and the only constraint on you is you cannot give him a guaranteed payment in the event that you fire him, or the event that you go bankrupt or insolvent, and that's the only constraint on you for the next 18 months, call it, or 2 years. To us, that seems like a pretty modest hindrance for you coming into the program.
The next question is Gerard Cassidy of RBC Capital. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Can you tell us, when you decide, the Treasury and the Fed decide to buy assets that are not either residential mortgages or commercial mortgages, do they need to get authority other than between the Treasury Secretary and the Chairman of the Fed? Do they have to ask anyone else for approval?
No, they just need to, the Treasury Secretary needs to consult with the Chairman of the Fed, and then needs to send a notification to Congress, but no approval is required.
Okay. So this is Tim Ryan again. I want to thank everybody. We have something close to 800 people